Welcome to On Scene with Ponder Media. I'm your host, Ian Fox, and today we are here at the Timberlake Lodge Hotel and Event Center for the 2023 Minnesota Bigfoot Conference. Today we'll be hearing from some experts in the field about some of the newest and most updated research in the Minnesota cryptid field. Let's go check it out. We ventured into the conference center and grabbed some complimentary orange water before taking our seats to listen to the first speaker, David Ellis.
It's now 14 inches long, where it was originally the year before, it was 11 inches long. And if you look at the leg structure, that is not somebody in a suit. So the Patterson-Gimlin film for me, even at an early age, was something that I believe you're just not looking at a suit.
Here, David is referencing the Patterson-Gimlin film, which is arguably the most famous footage of a Bigfoot and was filmed by Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson in 1967.
My grandfather had an 80-acre farm just outside of Battleground, Washington, all Bigfoot country. What I'm showing here is a Google Earth shot. Well, let's see, we were about 6 grandchildren, and every time we'd get together, he'd like to gather us around and tell stories. Most of it was funny. But there was one story that he told that scared the heck out of me. He was cutting hay one day. He described what popped up out of the hay was a 5-foot-tall monkey, and it ran across the hayfield on 2 legs, hopped the fence and into the woods. 5 or 6 years old, I'm thinking or knowing that there's monkeys in the woods. So let's move to 1963. We got the Fab Four. They haven't even come to the United States yet, but they're tearing it up on the charts with music. I was busy growing pumpkins. A group of the neighborhood kids would go into this stuff field, and we'd be there all day long doing what kids do. One of the kids picked up a stick, and he whacked it on a branch, and I'm standing maybe 10 feet from that fence line, and all of a sudden, the large trees start doing this. And I'm looking at that going, what in the world's going on? And then the next thing I can remember are branches being snapped off, maybe 10 to 12 feet off the ground. And they were coming down, and then something cut loose with a scream that sounded something like this. I remember falling to the ground and kind of coming to, and then running home with everybody else in the neighborhood right behind me. My dad said I just about tore off the screen door trying to get in the house. He said, "Sit down, what's going on? Tell me what's happening. Why are you so agitated?" I said, "I just heard a scream that I can't fathom. It sounded like a lion roaring and an elephant trumpeting at the same time." He thought that was pretty interesting. I tried to talk him to go out there, and if I would be safe if my dad was with me, theory. But they were my mom and dad were getting ready to go out for the evening when that happened. I believe this happened near their anniversary, and my mom put her foot down. "Dean, you're not going back out there." Okay. Balance, intolerable sensations, incapacitation, disorientation, nausea, vomiting, a bowel spasm, oops. Okay, that was my first recording, so I was pretty jazzed when I heard the screams and the knocks. Isaac Tien, how many people know who Bill Munns is?
It was then that I saw him. Not Bigfoot, but Abe Del Rio, the founder of the Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team and organizer of the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference. He is also almost certainly the only other person in the room wearing Jordans. After David finished up his speech with some age-appropriate memes, we were lucky enough to speak with Abe right outside of a very loud kitchen. We are here with Abe Del Rio, founder of the Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team and the, I believe, main organizer behind the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference. How are you doing today?
I am all over the place. I feel like Gumby getting stretched all over in one direction. So I'm doing really good. I'm surviving.
This is the 4th annual conference. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
How big has attendance been this year and compared to other years?
Well, I think right now we're probably just broke about 200, which is a little bit more smaller than the previous years. But nonetheless, it's a good turnout. It's 200 more people that we're educating.
How long have you been in the Bigfoot game generally?
Well, 23 years. I established it back in 2000, so it's been a little over 23 years now.
How did you first get introduced to cryptid research?
Well, from the gorillas at Como Zoo. My mom and my father would bring me to Como Zoo. Yeah, absolutely. And gorillas, Don and Casey at that time, they would have their own area, and they just bang on the steel drum that they had. And I'm getting goosebumps. And so my mom and dad would tell me that when they would try to go to a different part, I would just have a tantrum. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay there and look at the gorillas. You know, hearing the occasional Bigfoot sighting and report coming over through the radio, the newspaper, and it just kind of made a correlation and stuff like that. And then in the late 90s, there was just more stuff coming in. I was like, looked into it a little bit more deeper, reading everything I could on the internet, and it just sucked me in like a black hole. And I was like, there's something to it, so I started going out in the woods, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to form a team. Established MNBRT in 2000 and hit the woods for the past 23 years. Been chased by one, been in between two of them, been followed, been paralleled, rock throwing vocalizations.
Rock thrown, you said?
We had a rock thrown us on one location, yeah. It actually landed by a tree that we were using to wood knock on for our form of communication, and it landed right at the base of that tree. It was like, wow, that's kind of cool.
Do you think there was any intention from the animal towards you with hitting that tree?
It raises a lot more questions, but nonetheless, I mean, it had to have been watching us hit that tree from a distance and threw that rock over.
We had just heard a story about having an encounter from just a couple feet away.
Sure.
What's the closest encounter you've personally had?
That's really hard to say. I probably had one from this wall to maybe the other wall, walking in the woods and parallel me while I'm walking on a path. It could have been a little bit more closer, too.
You were on an episode of Finding Bigfoot. What was that experience like, kind of bringing your expertise to a nationwide TV audience?
So first off, Matt, Boble, Cliff, and Renee, they're good friends. It was just more like hanging out with some friends and doing a show, basically.
Yeah.
Doing it... we had a great time. We went to an area where we have had Bigfoot activity, and lo and behold, we had Bigfoot activity come out of the cedar swamps. We got a knock from the cedar swamps, as Matt would relay. Actually, you know, we're all been doing this for 20 plus years, so it was just like a meeting of the minds, so to speak, and just having fun with each other and getting out there. It was just fun.
People with a mutual passion.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, you never know what's going to happen, but nothing's going to happen if you're not out there.
What was the kind of field like as far as the meeting of the minds for the general population to learn about more updated research before this conference?
You know, it was really hard. Even for doing this for 20 years, I was like, what the heck, what more could we possibly do to get this out there? As I mentioned on stage, I was like, okay, well, there's not a conference in Minnesota. We're going to do the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference. Let this be an outlet, let be a safe haven. Prior to that, I guess, Reamer Bigfoot Days, excuse me.
Okay. We were briefly interrupted by an emergency, but it was quickly handled by another member of the MNBRT. What impact have you seen as far as like interest in the population since the start of the conference?
It's spreading like a wildfire. Word of mouth is the biggest thing, and people can come and share their citing their instances, and that has a snowball effect. People say, "Hey, this guy said this at the conference. Where did you hear that? It was at the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference." There's such a thing, so that gets out there. And yeah, check them out. They're on Facebook, MinnesotaMNBRT.com.
Why do you think people are so adamant that there's not these creatures living out in our land?
Because they want to have their comfort zone. You know, they're comfortable with their life the way it is, knowing what they know. it's the unknown that really kind of scares people and
Yeah.
gives them that paradigm shift. So they're closed-minded, unfortunately. They like to stay open-minded about certain topics that they want to stay open-minded about. But when it comes to something like this, the most common asked question is that, why doesn't the government know about them? In all reality, the government does know about them. They have the technology, they recorded them, they've captured them. They removed bodies from burning areas of national forests and stuff like that. So why is it hush hush is more of the big question.
Yeah.
Again, if they were to disclose that Bigfoot's real, I think a lot of questions would arise as far as creationism versus evolutionism. If it is what we all think it is, the possible missing link, I think God created these just the way He wanted them. He created Homo sapien, Homo erectus. These are some kind of a Homo genus. We've heard stories about them kidnapping women and the women coming back with babies that are a little bit different. We're talking about a creature that has no geological borders. They can go wherever they want. Who's going to stop them, right? So
They're quite elusive as well.
Right, yeah, and they know when to move, they know where to stay away, they're right on the fringes, right on the outskirts of society and civilization. So they've been surviving for who knows how long and been doing what they're doing for who knows how long. And they're masters of it. So here in Minnesota, I would stick my neck out and saying there's at least 1,000, give or take.
What do you think people gain from being a part of this field and coming to events like this?
Hopefully, if they can walk away with a little something that opened their minds or a little something that they didn't know prior to coming in, that's all I would ask. If I could put an ember that starts a fire inside of them that makes them want to go out in the woods, because that's where we need people, is out in the woods, out in the field, not behind a keyboard, not on a chair in front of a TV. That's where we want to find the answers, is out in the field itself. The final words, I guess the only thing I would want to promote is the Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, mnbrt.com. We have a great guy that works on the website, and Minnesota Bigfoot Conference as well, a Facebook page. And check out our videos, follow, like, stay tuned, and subscribe, and squatch on.
We're not the only ones who have covered Abe's rise to stardom in the Minnesota Bigfoot scene. In 2016, Abe and fellow MNBRT member Mike Pops Hexum were interviewed by NPR.
Well, got an idea. Let's head back to where we were at before. Get a little fire going and wait till it gets a little darker and try to do some more knocks. I've had better luck in the dark.
Everybody does.
As well as being featured on an episode of ABC's Finding Bigfoot. The MNBRT has now grown to a total of 9 members, including Joel Sturgis, the man who would change this video forever.
Oh, we got one. Oh, do we? Come on, give her a yell. Come on. Now, what's your name? Yeah, let's do this thing. Ready? 1, 2. That's a scary Bigfoot, man. Hi there. What's your name? It is nice meeting you. Where are you from? Oh, that's me too. That's very cool. Now, can you give us a big, loud Bigfoot call? Ready? 3, 2. There we go. All right. You guys got in here for one more call? Just for the heck of it? Just be one more. You nervous? Okay. All right.
I'm Joel Sturgis, Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, as well as iHeartRadio and the Travel Channel. Coming at you guys right here from Grand Rapids, Minnesota. We're at the 4th Annual Minnesota Bigfoot Convention. Yeah, actually, I saw a Bigfoot. This is about 20 years ago. I was in northern Minnesota, which is where we are now, and I was on a hunting expedition, and I saw it while I was as close as you are to me, saw the Bigfoot. It was right next to me. It's kind of funny because you don't see him right away. I did smell it right away, though.
What's that scent like?
I would have to cross a skunk with the worst smelling garbage you ever smell in your life, and that would be a Bigfoot. It is disgusting. So if you smell something that bad, start looking around. You might have a Bigfoot near you.
And as far as size, how big was this one that you encountered?
Well, I am almost 6 feet tall. This one was well over 8 feet tall. About as wide as a refrigerator, if not wider than a double door refrigerator. You know, the big wide ones, the French doors. That tall, about that size, muscular, not really angry, but it was startled to see me as much as I was startled to see him. They know you're in the woods as soon as you come into the woods, so it was obviously tracking me, trying to figure out what I was up to.
I've heard a lot of people are using sticks or bats to make noise on trees as an attempt to draw the Bigfoot closer. How effective has that been?
You know, that is actually very effective, and if anyone that's watching, that's the first thing I would start to do, and is go out in the wood knock. And that's all it's called. Just hit a tree, and then you wait a few minutes, see if you get a response. You know, that's communication between you and the Bigfoot, but also it's non-offensive communication. So it's not something like howling, things like that you could try, but wood knocking is, anyone could do it.
How many Bigfoot do you think there are currently in North America?
There's research right now. It is in the thousands, judging just by sightings. Every year you have thousands of sightings. We're talking about 2,500 Bigfoot, maybe there's 3,000. There could be more. We just don't know because they are very skilled at hiding. Heck, we have a hard time tracking wolf activity, how many wolves we have, things like that. The best guess would be right around maybe 3,000. I also do paranormal investigation for ghosts, UFOs. I kind of do it all. I think that all these are related because a lot of times you go into, like, I know there's probably be a lot of paranormal investigators watching your channel. You go into a ghost hunt and you're going to find out there's also Bigfoot activity or there's UFO activity. A lot of times they are connected. It's funny because recently I went on a Bigfoot investigation and we ended up also witnessing a UFO.
Where was this?
This was north of here because I'm sure you've heard that before. A lot of people say, well, you know, we'll go in and we'll experience this phenomena, but then there's this phenomena going on aside of it. So there's something definitely to that.
How long do you usually spend out in the field on these expeditions?
Kind of varies on a lot of, how long you have permission to be in that area. So if you're out there looking for Bigfoot, make sure you know what land you're on, make sure you have the permission, stuff like that. It can go anywhere from a couple days to I've been out there for a month. So it just depends on, you know, how far you want to go with it too. You know, the time of year, stuff like that. So it kind of varies in that end of it, how long. And really, quite honestly, I mean, the UFO thing has really become a big topic, not only because the government's starting to open up a little bit about it, you know, taking the first steps to maybe disclosure. But disclosure is really going to happen from us citizens more than it's going to happen to them. You know, from them. The more evidence we get, the better.
How do you gather the resources to do these expeditions?
Most people that are out there doing this, it's self-funded. It's doing the labor of love. There's very few that are out there that have academia behind them. Not to say there isn't. There's an Olympic project that we just heard from David Ellis that they are backed with funding. But a lot of it, like to your point, is going to be self-funded. And that's why some of it is, there's such a small, narrow passages of evidence because of that. I mean, people can only be out so long because we have day jobs, this and that. And now, science is starting to take a deeper look at it, though. I mean, they're not laughing us out of the building like they did 15 years ago. They're more apt to listen now, where there actually are scientists. They're going, okay, there could be something to this. So at least that's starting to change. It's not where I'd like it to be yet, but it is getting there quickly. Awesome. And so I'm hoping that in the future there's going to be more full-time investigators with deeper pockets because, you know, it's expensive technology that can actually go out there on sustained investigations, you know, surveillance investigations, and maybe get more answers for us.
Could you tell us about this most recent experience you've had up north?
Yeah, we were actually looking for a Bigfoot. Hey, Doug. Doug Hydechek, Monster Quest, right over there, the producer. We were tree knocking, like we were discussing. There was a light in the sky. It always begins a light, but it was not the color. There was like purple and pink and odd, non-FAA approved colors in the air, right?
Certainly not a straight light.
No, it was darting very quickly, left, right, up, down, like moment's notice. A good friend of mine, he says, hey, if you're ever out there, do this your flashlight. You know what I mean? It's just kind of Morse code something else. So I did that and started blinking back at me. And that's when crap got real because I've heard of a couple people, they've said, well, I've done that. Next thing you know, I'm missing time. And I'm thinking, I don't know how far I want to go.
Slippery slope.
But we left that area to go to another cryptid area where it was sighting. That light followed us to that next area. So I'm not, who is watching who at this point? It's getting bigger and closer and closer and closer. It was definitely unidentified. I'm going to say it's ET. I don't know if it's ET or not, but it's definitely unidentified, and it was very strange.
What's the feeling like of kind of connecting with it through some means, some form of communication?
It's exhilarating. It's scary. At some points, it can be if you're not ready for it. Because, contact from afar is always fun, right? But then when it gets closer and it becomes really real in your face, that's what we're living for. I mean, that's what we're doing there. I mean, if you don't want to find a snake, don't go out look for the snake. Yeah. But it's that moment of true contact that's the most exhilarating. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for that feedback, that we're on the right track.
What do you think drives people to have this passion for the unexplained?
Way back in the 90s, I make it sound like it was a million years ago. It wasn't that long ago. There wasn't as many people doing it. But now that TV shows are all, and they're making it more normalized. Because it used to be you go up to someone and say, hey, I looked for a ghost this weekend. They look at you like you had a third arm growing out of you. Yeah. Now if you tell somebody, hey, I went to a haunted location, I looked for a ghost. Oh yeah, I've watched that show on Sci-Fi, or I've done this, or I've done that. I think that pop culture has made it normalized. Yeah. And that's what brings a lot of people out to try it. So it's been a good thing because it gets more eyes in the field. And so that, hopefully that continues, that gets more normalized. The stigma's kind of gone because forever, Bigfoot, UFO, ghosts, that has a certain amount of stigma to it for a long time. We don't have that anymore. Now it's conventions, the whole industry onto it now. And so that's a good thing.
Were events like this nearly as popular or as populated as they are now?
Well, they were always popular with a niche group of people, right? But going back to TV, because of shows like Finding Bigfoot came on TV, Expedition Bigfoot, things like that, they've made it wider audience that wants to come try this, or at least open their mind to come check out what our speakers have to say. What hasn't changed, though, is the passion that the investigators have. I mean, they're even more passionate now than they were, I think, because now they have some validation. Yeah. Hey, we're not crazy.
Behind them.
Yeah, there's a community, because, the more people that come together, the stronger they are, and the more that they feel validated. And that's really it right there, isn't it? The validation of what you're doing is correct. Next year, come on up to Grand Rapids, hang out, check these guys out, though. What's your channel's name, man?
We're called Ponder Media.
Ponder Media, man. This is Joel Steers, iHeart Radio. You are watching Ponder Media.
Joel then asked us, and I quote, "Do you guys want to see some cool shit?" And we said absolutely, and he took us outside.
You guys do like psychic stuff?
I'm interested. I haven't had a ton of experience with it personally.
They do like crystals and stuff like that. They can tell you about the... Yeah, well, as long as your guys are here filming, you might as well film all the cool shit you find, right?
Absolutely. Is this an interest of yours?
Yeah, I do this as well. So I'm in this community too. So I got a foot in both, you know.
Do you think there's generally a lot of overlap between the two?
There can be, depending upon the person, what they're into. And this is its own subset of the paranormal right here is psychics, of course, and crystals and healing and Reiki and, so get your audience in.
Sweet, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, we are right across the street from the Bigfoot convention. We have moved on a little bit, but we have encountered Allie. Welcome. And she has a wonderful story about Bigfoot sightings.
I used to go from Brainerd up to the north where I live. I would drive hours and hours and hours a day. And one stretch on Highway 6 in Minnesota, I like to call the magic miles because I have had so many just weird things happening in that area. And I almost hit Bigfoot with my car. I was about 6 miles north of Emily, and I was coming up north, and I saw like a figure standing on the side of the road, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. This is like early to mid-March, so I'm like, this is kind of weird. It's still chilly, everything's slushy and gross. And it looked like he was in a ghillie suit, and I was like, this is strange. And I kept getting closer and closer, and he didn't move, and he didn't move, and he didn't move. I got maybe 100 yards away, and I realized this thing was like 7-8 feet tall, and I'm like, this is a large human being. like, even if he was on stilts. This is weird. And then he started walking out into the road, and I'm like, I hope he's walking across because I am not stopping. He just stopped right on the yellow lines, like in the middle of the highway. I slammed on my brakes because at that point I was really close to him. And I realized this was not a regular human being. And it leapt the entire, like, lane. It's a 2-lane highway. It leapt the whole thing, slid down the bank of the road and just, like, ran off. And, like, I pull over so quick and I see the footprints and everything, and I'm panicking because I thought I almost hit a man. And I'm, like, trying to make sure he's okay because he just rolled down the hill. And so I, go out to see if he's okay, and I see this stuff, and I'm like, these feet are massive. This is like a bear. It was intense. I immediately call my dad, and I'm like, Dad, I just saw Bigfoot. And he's just like, you what? He's a huge squatcher.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you got to go here and you got to report it and you got to, like, talk to these people. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm, like, shaking in my car thinking I just almost hit someone.
Right.
And, like, it took a minute for me to actually realize what happened. But, yeah, that was kind of cool. I always kind of had a theory that he was real. Like, there's a lot of evidence for it. And maybe he's just reclusive. I mean, there's a lot of animals that went extinct, quote, and then they were sighted 20, 30, 40 years later, just out of the blue. So there's no reason that Bigfoot, like, can't be one of those. It was really weird because my dad's like, no way, this is so cool. And he's, like, freaking out about it.
Do you think he was maybe a little jealous that you had gotten so close to him?
Very, 100%. Yeah, he still jokes about it. He's just like, yeah, my daughter met Bigfoot one time. I'm like, I did not meet Bigfoot. I almost met him with the hood of my car.
What do you have to say about what's going on in this room here?
So this is a spirituality and crystals convention. So it's all about the metaphysical, energetic properties, tarot reading, psychic stuff, numerology, all that fun stuff. I actually didn't know what was going on until today, and I feel like I was supposed to be here. So I got a $20 tip at work today, and that afforded me the ticket to be here. So I feel like everything kind of fell into place, and it's kind of fitting, being here and then meeting you guys with a really cool story. So
Absolutely. I'm glad it went down this way.
if you're ever in the Rapids area, there's lots and lots of metaphysical stuff. There's a lot of people to contact if you're into any energetic or metaphysical stuff. If you just look up Grand Rapids, Minnesota metaphysical, there's a ton of stuff to come up. I can't recommend you a single person because there's a lot of people here that are great. And then we have a lot of fun stuff like Bigfoot conventions, and we have coin collecting shows, we have gun collecting shows, we have stamp stuff, we have literally anything you can think of. We're a big tourist town, so if you guys want to come on up to Grand Rapids, it's pretty cool. We got a lot of stuff.
We're here with Amy. You have a lot of crystals on display. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do here?
I run a pop-up shop called Nomadic Spirit Works. So where you find me is where you find me on any given day. I don't have a website like with inventory on it. I started out doing tarot readings and energy healing since I was like 13 years old. So 30 years of doing that, and then the last 5-6 years I've added crystals and things like that, and handmade jewelry and intuitive art. I teach classes on shadow work and the importance of facing your darkest forms and the darkest parts of who you are, because the reason we're seeing so many problems with the world right now is because people don't know how to deal with their anger and their pain. So instead of dealing with it, they lash out and attack others. I teach classes about that and how to do it because I've had to do it myself many, many times. I've had far too many weird experiences to deny that anything is possible.
Yeah.
When you get into a single car accident and the first question out of the sheriff's mouth is, how did you not flip? When you go down 20 feet at a 90-degree angle. And that's just one of many. Like my brother, he won't be in the same room as me when I do tarot readings simply because of the weird things he's seen me go through when I've done them. So it's been really an interesting life that I've lived, and I get to go and teach other people about the things that I've learned through a lot of trial and error and a lot of really bad mistakes that have almost claimed my own life.
As far as kind of getting into this field and realizing that you had a connection to maybe something greater than the initial understanding. Where did you kind of begin with realizing, like, I can maybe understand this thing?
When I was a kid, honestly, like I was about 6 years old and I was terrified of thunderstorms. Absolutely terrified. And on the edge of my mom and dad's property, there's a giant maple tree that always got struck by lightning. And whenever it stormed, I took it upon myself as a 6-year-old to get my animals back in the house to get them to safety. During a particularly bad thunderstorm, I ended up underneath this maple tree. And all of a sudden, there's this giant dude standing next to me holding out his hand. And I'm like, what the hell? And I grabbed his hand and he walked me to the door and I turned to thank him and he disappeared. 4 years later, there was a Time Life book series about the supernatural and gods and goddesses and things like that. And I was looking through it in my brother's collection and I saw this picture of Thor. I was like, I've seen that dude before. He was the dude that had helped me walk to the house. After that, I was just like, yeah, there's too many weird things in this world. Yeah. Because there's no other explanation, because I was also never afraid of thunderstorms after that day. I actually went outside and played with them.
Do you think that gave you kind of an attunement to a thunderstorm happening and changing your perspective?
Oh, absolutely, because I could start feeling when storms were coming. Like the weather would say, oh, it's going to be sunny. I'm like, no, it's not. It's going to storm. And to this day, I can tell whether or not a storm is going to be really bad or it's going to pass by or it's going to be like nothing.
Do you think that was a sort of blessing that you received or something that was innate and maybe you learned to access at that point?
I think a little bit of both, honestly. I think that a lot of kids are very open intuitively, and then the world around them teaches them to shut down. And for me, I had too many experiences at too young of ages that I couldn't shut that off. By the time I was in second grade, I had dreams that became reality. Like I'd be going to school and all of a sudden I'd be like, I've seen this before, like this exact moment. Oh my gosh, I just dreamed about this last night. Like what's gonna happen next? Oh, I already know. I couldn't shut down because like the world taught me to shut off. But my experience were like, nope, you can't. Yeah. You know what's going on. You know what's out there. Keep going. What I saw and felt and sensed was not explainable about the world around me. So I went inward and I went looking for the different, the oddities, the uniqueness, because I had no other choice.
Looking for the things that contradict that structure.
Yes, because what I found is the strange things are usually the things that hold more truth than the things we're told by mainstream society. So like, you guys are really into the Bigfoot convention stuff. There's no doubt in my mind that he's real or was real at some point. There's no doubt in my mind that there's creatures that we have yet to discover. There's too many weird things that I've experienced that I'm just like, yeah, that there's some
doesn't
truth.
Quite add up.
Yeah.
Just before we started speaking on camera, we were talking about tattoos. And you mentioned you do jewelry as well. What do you think the benefits or other effects there are to attaching something either permanently with a tattoo or temporarily with jewelry to your body?
With me, every single one of my tattoos is actually spirit-driven. I have dreams of exactly what tattoo I'm supposed to put where. And if I do it in the wrong order, I get dreams where I get yelled at. So for me, it's spiritual protections. Every single one of my tattoos is to protect me. Like, one of my spirit guides at one point said, jewelry can be ripped off of you, jewelry can be stolen, it can break, you can be lost. Tattoos, skin's a little harder to do that with. So you're going through all this stuff, you're dealing with all these things, you're fighting against multiple systems that want to destroy you. Get the protections on your skin, because it's going to be a heck of a lot harder for anyone to take that away from you. So every single one of these, I've got deer, I've got the moons, I've got the fireflies. Every single one of them has a story and a reason, and a period of my time where I needed them the most. And so they are a record of my journey. Yeah, and all my jewelry, like my necklace, my bracelets, they're all handmade. And then like the rings are intuitive. Like I just found them and they wouldn't let me put them down and I had to take them with me. So everything is intuitive for me.
What do you think the general power of a crystal is?
Stones have a tendency to call us out. So, for instance, when I'm dealing with something, I see my inventory all the time. But there's times where I cannot put a certain stone down. And I'll look up the meaning and I'm like, oh, yeah, that explains that stone. Like, it'll be like, oh, you had a broken heart and here's the stone for a broken heart. Or, you need to get your voice back. Like, you need to speak your mind and draw your boundaries and embrace your power. Here's a stone for that. And they won't let me put them down because at that moment, that's what I need. So for us, like, when you allow yourself to kind of let your guard down and listen, you can find the tools you need to call you out and say, this is what you need to work on. This is your next step. Like, please listen. So stones definitely have powers, and they're also mini computers, so they can be programmed into what you need as you grow and shift. So there's lots of connections between the earth, because it's also returning to our primitive nature and our primitive selves. That's all intuition is, really, is the remnants of our primitive brains. Once we tune in, we know exactly what our body needs. The rocks know what our bodies need.
Is there any specific stone that is maybe your favorite, or one that you have a special connection to?
I'm a sucker for anything with rainbows, just because I love all colors.
Yeah.
But blue apatite is one of my favorites, and it's a really good one for reclaiming your throat, reclaiming your voice, especially when you've been through a lot of trauma. Like, I have complex PTSD. So I've been through a lot of really hard things that made it hard for me to speak my mind. And my heart's been broken multiple times, and it's a good heart stone to heal yourself that way. So that's one of my favorites that I constantly am returning to, and it's because there's so much shadow work for me to do. So that's one that keeps coming back to me in my journeys.
Is there anything else you would like to share or generally want the world to know?
Listen to your instincts. They are usually trying to keep you safe, and your first feeling or your first thought is usually the most accurate.
Before we start this, what did you tell him?
I just said, you want to see something super duper cool? Come with me.
It's a lot of cool stuff happening up here this weekend.
I am Sherry Meyer. My business is Reiki Magic. I'm a Reiki master. I am a psychic medium. One of the best things to talk about it is I live in a ghost hotel. Not a physical hotel, but my property has a portal on it, and I have ghosts that come through all the time.
How did you discover this portal, and also how did you discover your connection to the extra normal?
See, I was very blessed as I was growing up. My mom is very psychic, has always been very psychic. My whole family was really very psychic. So I was blessed with that. It was very open in our family, and so my brother could always tell when people were coming, or could tell if there was, a fire 4 or 5 miles away, and all this other stuff. And they started seeing different things happening, and so I kind of grew up with it. I have a magical practice, and I do that, and I just recently really started getting into the mediumship and really talking to the dead and that sort of thing. But I've come to realize that I've been very psychic and talking to the dead for a really long time. It's just that it had to be brought to my attention again, because I wasn't really using it to my fullest potential and stuff. So that's how it all started. I love it. I'm not afraid of it anymore. I used to be a lot afraid of it when I was younger. It was kind of spooky.
Yeah.
I started to get in a little bit on the paranormal side of it. I've never done any investigations. I love you paranormal peeps, but you're not my bag, so I'm not going to I'm not going to be doing any investigations. I'm the type of person that cleanses people, like bless them before they go in, cleanse them when they come back out, help heal the property, help heal the land, that sort of thing. Because that's being a Reiki master. That's just part of my natural healing type stuff that goes with it.
What effects do you think it can have on someone to live in a place that isn't cleansed of maybe a remnant of what happened there before?
I'm just going to take this as an example. So let's say you're getting a new house.
Yeah.
And in the new house, either somebody passed away in the house, or there was an awful breakup, or whatever. There's a lot of negative energies that are sitting around, and that's where I come from with everything. This is all energy work. Doesn't matter what it is: mediumship, tarot card readings, paranormal. Everything is all energy. And so you really want to get rid of that negative energy before you move in. And you can do that in several ways: of saging your house, cleansing it with incense and that sort of thing, and then it really does make a difference. I know people think that I'm crazy, but it does make a difference. If you walk into a place that has this stagnant, really kind of creepy feeling, and then you cleanse it, it's so much brighter. It actually looks brighter when you walk in, and people feel better because there's more positive energy and stuff that's in there. I call it a negative energy removal kit. Kind of tells you how to go through it, and like how to cleanse your house, how to do it. But I also give them 4 selenite crystals and 4 black tourmaline crystals to put in the 4 corners of the house, keep it protected. And then you use black sea salt on the outside of the house to create a perimeter around the house to keep things from coming in. Like
creating a container of sorts.
Kind of. It's kind of like Dracula. They can't come in unless they're invited.
I have a black tourmaline at the house.
Yeah. So it's all good.
You said you've been connected since your youth. What was kind of a pivotal moment where you realized, like, I may be able to attune myself to something that other people might not see immediately? And what kind of made you realize that you had this ability to see beyond the eye?
I've had it a while, was kind of afraid of it, and then actually I have to say it's probably in the last 10 years I've really honed in on it, so I waited till I was later in life to do it. And we all have spirit guides, and they all have baseball bats, and they all say, hey, you're supposed to be doing this. And so I knew like 10 years ago I had a reading done, and I was told that I was supposed to be channeling, that I was supposed to be a medium. Well, it's taken me 10 years to get here and stuff. But then going back and talking about it with people, I'm like, oh, that was before my training. Oh, that was before this. And so I've actually really done it my whole life.
Yeah.
But it's a path that I'm supposed to be on. I'm a healer. I heal through my mediumship readings. I heal through my tarot cards readings. I'm a Reiki master. I heal through the energy readings. And so that's why I'm here. Are my spirit guides a little disappointed in me that I didn't do it earlier? Yes, but there was a reason for it. So I didn't do it until I was later in life, and I'm loving it.
And you found your way to it now.
Like, I'm still in awe that I can do this. I'm still in awe that it works. It's like, and I'm very happy with it, and I'm glad that I can do it. And taking ego out of it, because it really wasn't me, it was my spirit guides and everything that's helping. And I love it when I get somebody who I have a reading or I've done a cleansing for, and they go, that was spot on, or my house feels amazing. And I'm like, thank you. I'm glad that really helped you. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like going, it really worked. But no, it's just, I don't want everyone to lose that. I don't ever want to lose the awe of being able to do this.
Yeah.
So, but it's fun. I love it.
One of the things we were speaking about with a few people at the Bigfoot conference was the kind of validation that comes with educating people on the topic and bringing in new people to a field that you're passionate about. For them, it's cryptids. For you, it's more spiritual. Have you encountered a lot of people that maybe didn't believe or didn't understand the impact of energy? And have you seen anyone kind of learn to accept what's really there? That was a long question, I know.
I know, it was a long question. So, first of all, I've actually been very blessed about not coming across very many people who have been real skeptics. My husband has, when he's been in our Renaissance tent without me and stuff, but I have not. I have not come across that. Normally, in the environment that I'm in, and we do a lot of Renaissance festivals, so we're at a lot of different shows, our tent is very, very positive. I spell Reiki magic with a K in the end for a reason, so people understand that I'm pagan, people understand I'm spiritual, people understand that this is a safe haven for them to come in. So they'll always come into my tent and they go, are you pagan? Yes, I am. This is a safe place. You can ask me any questions you want. You're not going to be judged. And so it's an outlet more for people to talk about it. I did do a mediumship reading for a lady and her daughter, and her husband was kind of a skeptic, and I got a review on Facebook that said I was the closest that I've ever caught to their daughter, and that even her husband, who was a skeptic, started to believe.
It's incredible.
So I thought it was amazing, and I'm like, I'm just doing what I'm told what I'm supposed to do.
I'm doing what I know how to.
Yeah, I'm just doing what I know how to, and how I love it. You know, I absolutely, positively love it. So it's all good. It's all good. And I'm still going to start teaching it. I'm going to start teaching like Magic 101, Crystals 101. I already teach Reiki. Oh, girls that were just here wanted to learn about how to read tarot cards and stuff. And I said, yep. And so I've been... My guys have been going, share the knowledge, share the knowledge, share the knowledge. So I'm getting pretty beat up with that right now. So I got to start getting the classes online and get them done. So
what kind of training or practice do you do to hone these skills and abilities?
For psychic abilities, it was just practicing and stuff like that. And everybody thinks this about themselves. Like, my whole family is psychic, but I always thought my one brother and my other sister was better being psychic than I am. And so I just went, I'm a psychic, but I'm not that good. It's fine. I can do tarot cards, blah, blah, blah. I spend a lot of time I have a sacred space, and I spent a lot of times in there just sitting and chatting and talking, and you just have to kind of trust and believe what's coming into your mind. So, yeah, it's practice.
You've talked a good deal about family. These abilities, do you think they are passed down generally through generations?
Oh, I believe they're passed down through generations, but I also believe that everybody has the talent. Everybody has the ability to be psychic. Everybody has the ability to be a medium. I know my great-grandmother had abilities. I know my grandmother had abilities. I know my mom had abilities. I know I have abilities, and I know that some of my nieces and nephews and my daughter has abilities. And so I think more of it is just not being handed down, but it's how open you are in talking about it. Like I said, I grew up in a very open family. This was not a taboo subject. So,
What misconceptions do you think people have about mysticism or a connection to the extra normal?
that it's evil, and it's not. I'm going to try to put this as delicately as possible, but I'm not sure I can. It's our religions that put the kibosh on it. So I am not a firm believer in organized religions. And Wicca, which is a very witchy religion, but it's organized. And I don't think that people can really learn who they are and stuff if you're under such this stringent structure. You know, I had a grandfather that was very, very religious, and he really thought I was going to hell, and I told him I wasn't. He believed me, but I didn't have a heart to tell him I don't believe in it. So it's the religions that push it, and if the people are the more religious, and I say religious, not spiritual, the more religious they are, those are the people that are normally attacking you and thinking that it's evil and that sort of thing.
Speaking more to the organization of a group rather than the beliefs of people in that group.
Because everybody has their own spirituality, and their spirituality can be based on their religion. But the spirituality that you have, it's what you believe in. It could be Jesus, it could be the three goddesses, it could be whatever. But it's what you believe in that you've taken to make your own belief, and that you, it's what gets you through the good times, it's what gets you through the bad times. And nobody has a right to take that away from you. Nobody has the right to say, oh, you're wrong, I'm right. That isn't the way spirituality works. Everybody has their own, and that's their piece, and you should respect it, and you should honor it.
Is there anything you would want people to know who are maybe interested in learning or attuning themselves to these abilities?
Read. Do the research on it. Read everything that you can get on. My favorite authors are Christopher Penczak, Ellen Dugan, Penelope Quest. There's so much stuff out there. There's also this school, shall we say, it's called Udemy, Udemey. Just do your research, and then reach out to like-minded people. So when you see like-minded people, you know, if there's a pagan group or there's a, you know, paranormal investigation group or that, join the group and stuff. It's see what you do. The nice thing is we all have free will, and if it doesn't work out, leave the group and find another one. All works well. I'm going to say that the field is wide open to anybody, and that everybody should follow their passion. Whatever your passion is, follow your passion. Take your logic out of it. Use your intuition and your heart to follow what you truly want to believe in, and truly what path you want to go in.
We went back across the parking lot and hit up the merch table, which included cups, soaps, and bones. There was also some photos of genuine prints and some tits. We hit up the local Culver's, a true Midwestern staple, and then made our way back home. It's been about 2 weeks now since I attended the Bigfoot conference, and I've thought a lot about what that experience meant while I've been editing this video. The more time that passes since the conference, the less I think about any of the information that I actually learned there, either about Bigfoot or about spirituality, and the more I think about things like Abe Del Rio devoting his entire life to something that a lot of people would think isn't even a very reasonable hobby. I think about how Joel lit up every time a camera was pointed at him or any time he got on stage. It's clearly something he loves to do and feels fulfilled by. I'm not thinking about whether or not it's true that Allie hit Bigfoot with her car, and thinking more about the fact that her dad got jealous that she had gotten to interact with one. Think about Cherie downplaying something for the vast majority of her life, and then when she's middle-aged, turning around and looking at it and giving it another chance. But what I'm taking away from the experience is the beauty of these communities and how much they're willing to share with each other and connect with new people. This is the first video on this channel, and I was pretty nervous about what we were going to do up there and pulling people aside to be interviewed. But just about every person we met out there was super friendly and eager to share their insight on whichever of the two communities that they were a part of. We didn't ask Joel to introduce us to anyone, but he saw what we were doing and genuinely wanted us to see, as he said, some cool shit. Maybe it's not about finding Bigfoot at all. Maybe it's about finding each other. And that's going to be all for today. Thank you so much for sticking it out to the end of this very long video. I hope you found something either interesting, informative, or insightful. This is completely self-funded, so if you are feeling generous enough to help us out with future content, you can hit my link tree in the bio and donate to the project there. This has been On Scene with Ponder Media. Bye.
You are watching Ponder Media.